Radio verb pause. Hello, this is Stephen Fry, and welcome to Verb Pause. As a Verb Pause John, as one of their Johns, you will be treated to some verb whorish tricks. You will be treated to some of the most stimulating and exciting techniques that only Verb Pause can deliver to your tired and jaded sensitive spots. Welcome.
There aren't really any words that I could improvise right now that will fully appreciate his contribution to British comedy. The best I could manage would be to say something like Geoffrey Perkins was the finest Perkin that ever Perkined in British comedy, an absolute Perkin to everyone, and Perkins everywhere. And we shall certainly miss his Perkins, and it's going to take a lot of Perkin to come to terms with the Perkins. But I thought it would be a good idea for Cookdandbombd Radio to show its respect for one of the greatest audio producers, sonic wizards of British comedy, of British broadcasting generally. So we've got lots of clips coming up that we've managed to put together from Radioactive and Harry Enfield, some of Father Ted, to try and showcase Geoffrey's performing skills, which have hitherto not really been highlighted in the way they should have been in the newspaper articles and obituaries, because he had a delivery, a dryness all of his own. So we've got as much of that as possible coming up. And also I'll be playing an interview which I carried out with Geoffrey about I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue earlier in the year. But in the meantime, let's have some clips.
Yes, indeed. Today on Radioactive, we go Euro-wide with Mike Channel in France.
Bonjour.
Anna Dactor and Uncle Mike Stand in Berlin.
Guten Tag.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Mike Hunt in Madrid.
Hello.
And Sir Norman Tonsel in Saint-Tropez. And he'll be back with us in a fortnight's time. Paradise. I'm in paradise. Tropical beach at sunset. No noise but the waves lapping gently on the shore and the chink of ice in a pineapple daiquiri. And the swish of the wind and the leaves of the palm trees. No traffic but the line of native girls moving along the water's edge to pluck a fish from the sea and feel the last of the sun's rays on their supple brown bodies. Incredible. And you know what's most incredible of all? This feast of natural beauty, this peaceful island of dreams, is just 9,000 miles from Milton Keynes.
Radioactive's Euro Show.
Well, right now, our very own Norwegian export, Øyvind Vinstro, is going to present for the first time a problem phone-in, the main problem being that he doesn't speak English. However, he's here and raring to go, so what have you got lined up for us, Øyvind?
That's right, Mike.
It bodes well, so off you go.
Ja, mange takk. So, yes, now let me hear the first one, please.
Hello?
Good dag, tusen takk.
Pardon?
Hi.
Hi. I'm 19. I'm not married. Last week I found out I was pregnant. Obviously, I'm not sure what I should do. My parents want me to have an abortion. My boyfriend wants me to keep it. I'm not sure if I had it, if I could really look after it properly.
Huh?
Well, did you understand that?
Yeah, I understand it all. Except, what is pregnant?
I'm going to have a baby.
Oh, congratulations.
No, I don't think...
Party, and on with the music.
Oh, it's all right. I'll phone someone else.
Yeah, good. And who is next, please?
Hello, Oyvind. I've got a problem that I think you may be able to help me with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm studying Norwegian right now, and I don't have anyone I can practice with. I was wondering if I could talk to you in Norwegian a little bit.
No, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
I want to talk to you in Norwegian.
No, I'm not quite with you.
Jeg lille hammer Trondheim Ederspart in Matamuda Udder.
No, I'm still not getting it.
Oyvind? Oyvind, your name?
No, well, there's someone else now, please.
Hello, Mr. Vinstra. My name is Cousins from the immigration authorities. I'd like to discuss the nature of your work permit.
Well, I'm afraid there's no one of that name working on the station at the moment, and we're running out of time anyway.
What?
Hello, and welcome to English for Aliens. In this introductory lesson, we'll be learning some simple words to acquaint ourselves with the language. First, tree. Tree. Let's try it again. Tree.
Tree.
Nearly. Tree. Very good. Now let's try a new word. Car. No, car. K-A-R. Car. Well, 2 out of 3, not bad. Let's move on. Yes, very good. Yes, very good. Now let's try road. No, road. Good. Never mind. We'll have a look at some of the things we see in the classroom instead. No, I don't think we'll find a tree in the classroom, will we? Oh, well, I think that's actually a little bit advanced for you. That's a picture of the baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus!
Well, that is good. Some real progress. So, how about window? Window.
I think the man who gave Father Ted a lot of its identity that we wouldn't have thought of was our first producer, whose name is Geoffrey Perkins, and he's the voice of the Cuban priest. That's his voice. That's Geoffrey's voice. And there's so many things he did for Ted that have made the show what it is. Like, for instance, the theme music. We had the choice of 2 pieces of theme music. One was the music that you hear, and the other was a very silly kind of knockabout bit of music that we wanted, because we were always saying, well, we want to make fun of sitcoms. We're slagging off sitcoms, and this is our joke on sitcoms, so we want a silly piece of music at the top. And Geoffrey said, why do you want to make fun of your own characters? He said, people will love these characters. You shouldn't make fun of them.
Looks like rain, Ted. Come on, Dougal. It's your go. I must say, Father Hernandez, it's been wonderful having you over. But I expect you're getting homesick for Cuba by now.
Yes, my country is very beautiful.
But Ted,
you have a great life here on Craggy Island. You have 2 good friends. Father Dougal and, of course, Father Jack.
Yes, but I must say, I miss the noise and the lights, and the whole buzz of the big city.
You were in Wexford, weren't you?
I was, yes. But Craggy Island has its charms. The west part of the island was beautiful, until it drifted off, of course.
Drifted off?
Yes, there was a bit of a storm and it just came loose. Now we don't have a west side, it's just north, south and east. But it was lovely while I was there.
You know, Ted, your housekeeper is a very beautiful woman. Sometimes this celibacy is hard for a man.
Adios, Ted.
Right, so hopefully none of these clips will really need any extra explanation to any of you. We've just had some Father Ted with a snippet of Graham Linehan talking earlier this year, not long ago. Obviously plenty of Radioactive and Harry Enfield's television programme, and I haven't heard that alien sketch in an era, and I'm very glad to hear it again. And we're just about to have a couple of snippets of Golden, I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, which I thought I'd better just introduce to explain that it's the very first time that Mornington Crescent was ever played on I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue. 30 years ago. This clip is almost exactly as old as I am. And we've also got Geoffrey's favourite moment from his time working on I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue, with a very carefully worked out late arrivals at the Christmas ball. Enjoy.
So we'll uphold that challenge and we'll go on to the next game, which is the old favourite, and a lot of people I know like to join in with this one at home, Mornington Crescent. No special rules come into play in this particular round. So we'll start now with you, Timbrook Taylor.
Neasden High Street.
Googe Street.
Cromwell Road.
Oh.
Dollis Hill.
Good lad.
Strand.
Mornington Crescent.
Yes.
Yes.
Swine! Actually, is that right?
Yes.
Barry definitely wins that game. The audience...
Yes, come on. Well deserved.
The audience, recognising brilliant play when they see it, bursts into spontaneous applause. And we go on to the round... Right, and we'll go on to the next game now, in which, at the beginning of the programme, I asked the teams to introduce their late arrivals for the Christmas ball. And that is exactly what they're going to do.
Here comes the whole crowd of Christmas favourites. Is it, I do believe, led by Emma Dreaming.
Oh, and Arthur White, in that case.
And the well-known Christopher Muss, better known as Chris. The good Lord, Avery Crease. Miss Carr.
And Di Wright.
Oh, and his welcome, please, His Worship, Mayor Daysby. Mayor Daysby.
And he is escorting Mary Ann Bright.
And there's Anne May Hall-York Crease.
And, of course, in charge of the whole party, Mrs. B. White.
They're going to burst into
Welcome
song.
all together, and now they're going to burst into song, I do believe. Emma Dreaming,
Arthur White,
Christmas,
Just like Dee,
Juan Sui,
Houston O,
Wendy Treetops Glisten,
and children.
Liz Ann,
2 years Laybell,
Cindy Snow.
Here she is back again. Emma Dreaming.
Arthur White,
Christmas
with
Avery Chris,
Miss Carr,
Di Wright, Mayor Daysby,
Mary Ann Bright,
and May Hall-York Crease,
Mrs. B. White.
Share and enjoy, journey through life with a plastic boy or girl by your side. Let your pal be your guide, and when it breaks down or starts to annoy, or grinds when it moves and gives you no joy, cause it eats at your hat or has sex with your cat. Let oil on your lawn or rent off your door, and you get to the point you can't stand anymore. Bring it to us, we won't give a fig. We'll tell you, go stick your head in a pig.
Okay, Radio 4 continuity standby. Radioactive is just finishing. Okay, go.
Hello again. As I said earlier, I had the honour of interviewing Geoffrey Perkins earlier in the year. I'm writing a book on I'm Sorry I'll Read That Again and I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue. And you probably wouldn't be surprised to learn that having the official backing of the Clue team opens a lot of doors for you. And thanks to Geoffrey's PA at Tiger Aspect and that, he agreed to have a bit of a chat with me. This is the third death that has occurred since I started writing this book, though I'm trying not to feel paranoid about that. The very first person I interviewed was one of Geoffrey's great heroes in radio comedy, Sir David Hatch. And I thought I'd just play you a very quick clip of that to give you an idea of my first ever interviewing experience. Here it is. everything today is so completely laid out of exactly what needs to be written and what themes and things like this. I mean, at the moment there's a scheme at the BBC, their latest writing scheme, everything had to be about texting or something like that. It's that specific that you are asked what to write. Right. And there is obviously there isn't a radio show now where you could just write anything like that. Just what is funny, let's do a sketch on that.
Right.
Which is
very limiting, I think.
Yes,
I
totally.
think that's slightly depressing what you've told me there.
Well, I'm sorry to bring you down, David, but
I don't think it should be like that. I think people. I mean, when David Renwick was first writing for me, he wrote. I mean, I was with David Jason yesterday. He came to a great family celebration we were having, and he and I were talking about David. And David started on the Luton Times as a writer, as a journalist, and he wrote sketches about anything that came to his head. For me, for the use of Kenny Williams. But I didn't say to David, I want a sketch about this and then I want another one about that. No, of course not. That's how you write copy that way.
I know.
It's not formulaic. You can't go and get a book off the shelf and go, oh, I see, we need newsagents. Newsagents, right, okay, I see, we can do that. It's what comes into your head.
I'm afraid that does seem to be how it's done these days.
Well, that was the success of Python too. Python was just those very clever lads who all had eclectic, weird sort of minds writing what they wanted to write. Nobody told them what to write. And everybody thinks it can be done by a focus group, but comedy can't be done by a focus group.
So that was Sir David Hatch, and I must apologise for my general lack of interview skills. I'm going to play the Geoffrey Perkins interview in its entirety, as much as I have. I already edited it at the time. I like to take out as much of myself from the interviews as possible because I don't like to listen to my own voice. Just listen to it, it's absolutely horrible. It's still listenable. And I think you'll agree with me that the one reaction that one comes away from this interview with is the simple observation of, wow, what a nice man. Here it is. How long after your arrival at the BBC until you started working on I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue? It couldn't have been long.
I think it was about a year and a half, actually.
Really?
Maybe slightly less than that. And what was extraordinary for me was that was one of the shows that I'd been a huge fan of in terms of just something you listen to on the radio. And the notion that, 2 years after listening to it on the radio, you're going to be producing it was extraordinary to me. So that was just a huge, huge treat, really. That pretty much given me cold. I mean, there were, I can't even remember having a sort of proper handover, but, I knew the programme pretty well, and so there were a whole load of games that I knew what to go with, and then I also decided, in that naive way of being rather young, and just, let's play a whole lot of completely new games as well, and see how they go. And I can still remember the very first recording I did, because I decided to, I wanted to play a completely non-game. I would talk to most of the cast about various games, including that. And the notion was that you pretended that this was as real as anything, had lots of rules, but didn't mean anything. And I think it was Barry who actually came up with the name Mornington Crescent. I think so. But we were basically talking our way around names of places and things, which sounded like they meant something and had some connection. I played it, and I've been trying to have a meeting to meet up with Humphrey Littleton to talk about what exactly we were going to do with this, and various others about, and kept having these sort of lunch meetings and things that kept being rearranged. And then eventually, we never quite made that, and the plan was he was going to turn up an hour and a half before the show, and we'd go through stuff. But actually turned up about a quarter of an hour before the show. And I remember sort of coming down the stairs with him at the Paris studio, trying to just explain the rules of Mornington Crescent and the fact they weren't to me. And nothing seemed to be going in. And I thought, oh my God, he's Gaga. And this was back in 1978. And of course, he was anything but. It was just his manner.
Yeah.
And the fact is that I bought his autobiography in some jumble sale or something years before. And it was his autobiography, or the first and probably several autobiographies, came out actually the year before I was born. Which shows how long quite he's been around, really.
Yeah.
And there's footage of VE Day in Trafalgar Square, and there's a guy playing a trumpet up at a lamppost in Trafalgar Square, and that's Humphrey Littleton, thinking about Mornington Crescent.
Yeah.
So we played this game, and I think we must have been recording quite close to transmission, I can't remember, but anyway, David Hatch had just taken over as head of radio comedy. So I'd given him the cast of the first programme, presumably so he could check that I'd absolutely wrecked the thing. And he came into our office and said, very much to the show, very funny. He said, this round Mornington Crescent. I said, yeah. She said, so there are no rules or anything to this at all. I said, no. She said, how many programmes are you going to play this? I said, well, I'm absolutely assuming that he was basically saying, well, okay, you can get away with this once, we don't do it again.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know, we might play it a few more. And he said, I think you should play it in every single programme. So we played it in every single programme throughout the first series to silence, because nobody in that audience had ever heard it go out on air, so didn't know what they were listening to. And then we started getting letters in about it.
Yeah.
And the letters would start with people saying, I'm really sorry I don't understand this game. And I had sort of 3 levels of letters in him. The first one was saying to people, well, confusing, I really don't understand this. And I just say, well, as long as you remember it's just a game we all used to play when we were children.
Yeah.
And then that'd be fine. And then I get a second letter back, people going, no, I'm really sorry, I talked to lots of my friends, nobody remembers playing this game as children. And then I said, next one, I'm really sorry, I can't explain the rules because we make War and Peace like a footnote. And then quite often you got a third letter back from people who had obviously rumbled what it was, going, I must complain because you went transverse using yellow from Bond Street to the old King's Road, and you can't do that without going bizarre on the mystery. They completely got what the thing was.
Is it scripted for
no, I think we'd sort of given them a response, really.
Oh, I see.
To put out, because we were, we got quite a lot of letters. It's interesting about Radio 4 and letters there, because when I did the Hitchhikers, there was a point where theoretically the audience figures were something like 0.1 or something, but I was getting about 25, 30 letters a day about the show and about things. So it was quite clear that radio didn't quite manage to tap into how many people were listening, and actually I'm starting to feel the same thing, really. It's just the Mornington Crescent thing seems to just get quite a lot of response from people.
Willie Rushton said that the London Underground idea of Mornington Crescent actually came from a very, very, very drunk John Junkin once. I see. That's all right.
Good, well done. I mean, as I say, we were basically, the basic conversation we had was about doing a complete non-game.
Yeah.
With no rules, but pretending that it did mean something. So it's a good well of involved all number of John and Barry. But essentially, that probably ties in with the notion of Barry coming out in Mornington Crescent with a name.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, that's my memory of it.
It's like a mongrel game of all sorts of different ideas, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I love the fact that there are bits over the years where it's been wonderfully embellished. I did actually. We did a tour of Australia with Radioactive, and we played it once. Or we did it once as a training thing with Australian people, which was even more surreal than the show. Absolutely nobody knowing what's going on at all. I'm taking it completely seriously. But I remember we played quite, I think in that first series, there were quite a few rounds we tried to play with mixed results.
Yeah.
One was we played a round which never went out, which was called Break a Man's Arm. And it was based on the idea of, well, if you talk to somebody about swans, at some point or other, they would be prone to say, because they're really sort of strong, and they've got really strong wings, they could break a man's arm with a single blow. And that being then the phrase that you want them to say.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, it's in a quiz where actually people like to be funny, relatively often. It's a bit tricky. When we played this round, Barry, I think, got a bit nervous after about a minute of there not being any laughs in it, just people trying to guess. So he started to just make funny remarks and stuff, which is all great. Until eventually, everybody just completely lost sight of what they were doing. The audience was sort of basically completely bemused. And this round went on for about 20 minutes. Until I can remember Tim pleading, saying, just please tell us what you wanted to say. And I almost put it out because, again, it was like a sort of utter antidote to a proper comic round of anything. But I think it was just, it was too completely unfunny. But I can't remember. There was certainly there was a book that we actually did a book after, I think, the second series that I did. I have no idea whether it was still in print. It's worth trying to track it down because there was quite a lot of stuff in there from 2 or 3 series of the show. I think it was published by Robson Books. People were getting in touch with them and seeing if it's around because, certainly in terms of lines and stuff you could pick out and indeed round played. I mean, a lot of it is, to be honest, is sort of transcripts from the show. So.
Yeah. Well, did you have much of a hand in making that, in putting that together?
In the book, yeah. I think I did. I don't think anybody got any money out of it, but it was just quite a nice thing to have done, really.
So the show was certainly doing well enough to get merchandise.
Yes, I mean, what's fantastic is that, the show was great, but Tim and Willie and Graham were all in a slightly odd position at the point I was doing the show, in that, the goodies had finished. They were a bit regarded as the children's version of Python, which is a bit unfair.
Yeah.
Doing the goodies. Willie Rushton had several television pilots which hadn't happened, and Not the 9 o'clock news had just happened, which, for them, was like a sort of new generation of people suddenly gone through. And not only, I remember Willie being pretty annoyed about the fact that they were doing lots of playing around with film footage, and he'd done a pilot about 2 years earlier where he'd done a lot of it and they made him cut it all out because they absolutely wouldn't back it, so he was quite cross about that.
Yeah.
So they were feeling a bit of a sort of something like a slightly lost comic generation or lost comic group of people. I mean, still wonderfully funny in that show.
Yeah.
And the great thing is that the show has managed to keep going and kept reviving itself. And I think one of the great triumphs which I think John Naismith did was, which had never occurred to me, which was getting somebody to write stuff for Hump.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so wonderfully, effortlessly funny in his own right, I thought, in that wonderfully dry English way, that I didn't think it was necessary. I mean, he certainly used to do loads of things which are just so deadpan about. Yes, that's right, Tea for Two. Yes, there's a very funny story about Tea for Two. Is there? Yes, there is. The next round is called. He just did lots of stuff like that. Which was great. And we did most of our recordings at lunchtime in the Paris studios.
Yes.
With what would be laughable now for the audiences, they're now getting basically playing the London Palladium, stomping and moving the hours. We used to get the old ladies coming in to eat their lunch to us. And by the time we finished, the pubs would be shut, so we'd go to a slightly seedy drinking club in the days before pubs were open all afternoon that Barry was a member of, called Tatty Bogles. Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, I think that the programme basically divided into 3, and still does, I think, into sort of 3 loose chunks, one of which were things that you absolutely ask people to think of things beforehand, like the balls.
Yeah.
And they must have loved getting new producers coming on the show because, you think of what's around the ball and say, how about the gardener's ball? And you say, you haven't done that before? No. I'm just thinking, you remember? No, I've never done that before. So they could absolutely recycle everything all over again. They like that a lot. So they must be daft with John Naismith now, having done the programme for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then there were the things that you sort of worked out a bit on the day, which were the sound charades and the lyrics and things like that. So they had a sort of, they were made up, but they weren't done live. And then there were the things that were completely done live.
Yeah.
Well, when I was doing it, basically in the theatre, really.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of them involved sound effect stuff, getting stuff done, so it would have been quite difficult to... I think the pub sounds to me like an earlier age.
Yeah.
There was a lot of being in the pub afterwards.
Yeah. Well, speaking of sound effects, actually, I was going to ask you about this Sounds Peculiar round. Were they sort of your baby? Would you actually sit there and work out the sound effects and sort of, a comic idea? Or did you ever work backwards?
I think there was genuinely one sort of mixture. I think there were some things where you put together something and play them at them and see if they come up with anything. And there were ones where they come up with ideas and then you make sound effects. I mean, I think it did mix it between both of them, really.
Oh, fair enough. Just fast forwarding to your last series, could we talk about Wobbling Bunnies?
Yes, I remember.
Anti-radio, the deliberately...
Yes, I think probably that was one element that I think that I probably did bring in a bit, was actually quite a lot of sort of things that you simply couldn't do on radio.
Yeah.
And therefore seemed to be a very good reason to play on that show, which relied entirely on lying, really.
Yeah.
well, still addicted to do things with lots of funny lines and stuff in it, but yes, you're right, God. But your memory's a lot better than mine now, because you've checked up on the programmes.
Since January the 1st, I've been working through a complete archive, bar 6. There's 6 episodes missing.
Are you doing I'm Sorry I Read That Again as well?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I started this book a year ago, so I've actually completed. I've got 80,000 word completed book on I'm Sorry I Read That Again.
Sounds very formal.
And you finished with a Christmas special, is that right? Your last ever?
Yes, that was fantastic. I forgot that. What I remember as part of the most fun of that was sitting down and doing that whole balls round at the end, but doing it as White Christmas and just working out the names of all of them, the entire song.
Yeah.
Ever Dreaming After White Christmas, etc.
Fantastic.
Yes, and I went back to the last show I did. That was great. I like that show.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I should let you go.
I wish my memory was as good as yours, but yeah, so that was really good fun.
So you know.
I'll try and find the book that came out, because I'm sure you might be able to get a few odd bits out of it.
That one will fetch a fortune on eBay, let's put it that way. It hasn't even turned up on eBay yet. It's very rare.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, I must have a copy of it somewhere around at home, but so much of my stuff is in boxes and moving around over the years.
Oh. Wow. What a nice man. Well, thank you for listening. I hope you'll all join with me in expressing the sentiment of immense gratitude for the life of Geoffrey Perkins. And he will always be remembered as one of the true greats of comedy whenever any of the backroom, not the comedy stars like Cleese or Hancock or Chaplin, perhaps, but the people who really know who drives comedy and where the good taste and backroom know-how and the technical genius, where that all comes from. I think it was John Lloyd who told me that nobody remembers the producers or respects them, and they're treated like shit, in his own words. But I think Geoffrey Perkins will be remembered, and deserves to be, as a writer, as a producer, and as a performer. So thank you very much, Geoffrey Perkins.
Fish.
Radio Verb Pause.
Party, and on with the music.